I had overdose. I really woke me up to realize about it a lot.
By the time I was 12 or 13, I was smoking meth with my mom, and I was using every day. I found it really hard to imagine having a day without being high.
Addiction is not a choice, and it doesn't define people. Melanoma Health Alliance and the Safe RX Mendocino Opioid Safety Coalition are working hard to connect people with resources to recover from addiction and lead healthy lives. Learn more about recovering from addiction and find resources to help yourself or a loved one at menomonahealth.org/addiction.
All right, sliding in here on our elbows again. Good morning, Maine. How you doing over there?
Yes, we're here. And as soon as Teresa stops playing with the volume, right here.
Right there. Okay, you can turn your volume up a little bit more.
Yeah,
You're a
thank
little
you.
low.
Wish I thought of that.
Hey, Scott and Tree Mercer are talking to us from their home in Maine. Kind of looks like our log home a little bit. Feel like I'm looking at my little studio. Is that a jackalope on the wall?
It is a
behind you?
jackalope. Yes, thank you. I thought I'd have to. His name is Thermal. We got him.
Thermal.
We got him in Thermopolis, Wyoming, years ago. He's wearing a David Letterman hat.
Aha. Well, pretty good rabbit if he's, excuse me, jackalope if he's got a David Letterman hat on. Wow, pretty funny. Hey, you guys could bring your volume up even a little bit more. I'm boosting you here online.
That's as high as it goes now. So
That is. Okay, well then you're just gonna have to speak a little bit closer to your microphone. Hey, before we get started, and it's nice, by the way, it's nice to see Scott and Tree, well, Scott right at this moment, and know that they had a good, successful trip to the East Coast from here. And he's got on his New England Whale Watch sweatshirt from Newburyport. Newburyport, you probably pronounce it differently than I do, but we'll talk about that in a second. I just want to remind people coming up Friday, well, it's going on every day actually, but we're calling it on Friday, Tower of the Power. This is the tower kind of looks more like an oil rig to me, but it's a KGUA tower. For those of you who are not in radio, the tower is what transmits all of the stuff that you hear on the radio. And we, of course, like so many businesses and nonprofits, have been going through a tough year with COVID. And so we're asking you for your support, and we're going to be asking you all day on Friday. But you don't have to wait. You can go to kgua.org and hit the PayPal button. We have a KGUA Facebook page where there is also fundraising going on there, and that money counts. We have several people helping us, and they're actually giving us money for matching money. So that means your dollar will count twice. So whatever you can do for us, we appreciate it. And thank everybody who's already started giving. We've got some generous gifts have come in already. It costs us $40 grand a year to keep this station going. That's just the basics, keeping the lights on, the electricity, paying for all those programs that you like to listen to, because except for Peggy's Place, the rest of them are not free. I mean, they're not free. We got to pay for Pacifica and for the PRX programs, the science programs, the news programs, Democracy Now!, all of those things cost money. So I believe that Scott and Tree are also going to be part of the big day on Friday, but it's not Friday, it is Wednesday. And so we want to get caught up. And so Scott, you look rested, refreshed. You must be happy to be home.
yeah, it was a great relief to walk in here after 21 months and just have the house smelling a little musty and closed up. But as soon as we opened some windows and turned the ceiling fans on, that all disappeared. That was the only issue. There were no furry friends living in the house, and nothing had happened. There was no damage. The yard was clean. Everything was, the woods out back looks like only 1 or 2 dead trees fell down. So
Wow. I was just
Last-
gonna ask you if anything was living in there.
no. Last year we had a limb come off a tree that was the size of a small tree, but nothing like that happened this year.
Great. Very good. So feels good to be there?
Yeah, we had great weather all the way across. We were expecting to get hammered by rain or, a tornado passed by from what we'd seen the week before. The week before we left, the Midwest really got hit. But we had nothing. So right now we transported quite a bit of redwood pollen with us. It's still on the roof of our van. There's quite a bit of that in southern Maine right now. We didn't have a drop of rain all the way across.
That's too bad in,
Yeah.
in many ways. Yeah, well, it's not raining here. We've had a couple of foggy days, but we've got a lot of wind. So, that dries everything out. And just be glad you're not trying to sit on that bluff amid all the white caps. And it's just a really strong wind. So, it's changing of the seasons here. And I know that happens every year, but we don't have to like it. Don't have to like the wind. If I was a windsurfer, I might be happy. But anyway, so it's great to see you guys. And I'm glad you had a good trip. So you and Mark Gross kind of sort of passed each other, sort of, somewhere along the line.
I think he was one highway below us. I think he was on 70.
Uh-huh.
We were on 80 until we hit 90 there in Ohio.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then 90 all the way to 95 here, Mass Pike, and then 95, and then here.
Mass Pike. Uh-huh.
Massachusetts
Definitely.
Pike.
Definitely back in New England. Well, it's great. So have you been out to see your beloved Atlantic?
Not on it, but yeah, we've been down. The beach isn't very far away here. It's maybe 1 mile. It's interesting. Our gym is wide open, so we've been going to that and seeing a few people who are now filtering back in. And this place got hit pretty hard last year with business closures.
Mhm.
Some of the restaurants that have been open for years are up for sale right now and just boarded up and closed. Some of them just gave up. And we're talking to a hotel owner that we know. We're talking to him on Sunday, and he was saying that last year Maine had that 2-week quarantine, which that alone did away with the tourist business. People comes up on 2-week vacations, they're going to have to sit in their hotel room for 2 weeks. So he said that even though the towns were busy, it was just all day trippers coming up and leaving because there was no point. You couldn't get into a hotel, and if you tried to stay, you had to stay for 2 weeks in a quarantine. So yeah, the area is just starting to rebound, but we're seeing a lot of changes here.
2 weeks quarantined in a hotel room. You mentioned the restaurants. I just read an article about Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, and 3 of the iconic restaurants that have been there for 75 years are still boarded up and closed, and nobody knows if they're going to reopen. And that's a big hit for tourism and for some of those places that we all used to go to, because you're sitting on the wharf and looking at the boats and just all those smells of all the Fisherman's Wharf. So it's very sad. I hope things start recovering, and people are starting to wander around here, some masked, some unmasked. I'm kind of 50-50, only because sometimes I forget to bring my mask, or I have it in my pocket and forget to put it on. So, it's getting a little casual, but probably a little too early to do that. And, I guess everybody is, I don't know. It does feel better though, knowing that we've changed, turned a corner. So that's good news.
And Maine is reopening fully on the 24th,
Monday.
on Monday, a week from
Wow.
Monday, 5 days or so from now. It's planning a full reopen. So, yeah, I'm a little suspicious that has to do with Memorial Day coming, but, it's like last year in Point Arena, Gualala area. It was shut down until summer vacation started, and then suddenly there were people camping on the sides of the road. So, but a lot of everybody we've spoken to here has been vaccinated, so the vaccination rate seems quite high here in Maine, and
That's
things
good.
things are open. There's a lot of takeout, like there is, back there, but we haven't seen it. We did go to breakfast Sunday morning at a restaurant that was, fully open inside, and so things are slowly rebounding here.
No lobster rolls yet?
All takeout.
Well, that is with, I mean, you got to take the lobster out anyway, so. Oh, my goodness. Well, it's great to see you guys in your other habitat, and and glad you made it there. Did you, just one more question, did you see a lot of people wearing masks across country?
Depending on, some people were kind of arrogant about it, but they'd walk right past a sign saying, "Do not enter without a mask." They'd stroll right in, then right up to the counter. We stopped in a couple of those Subway sandwich shops, that type of thing. And I was telling you in an email about the Quoboda restaurant, which is like a Mexican Subway thing. You go along a line and tell the people what you want in your plate. And they were very adamant before you even got in the store about to protect our staff, please wear a mask. And some people just walking right in past the mask and right up to the counter, which they did have protecting themselves with plexiglass, but it was too bad to see people acting that way.
Mm-hmm.
That was mostly in the east of California and west of New England and New York and all that. So
So if you're not on the coast, in other words, then you're running into a lot of that. Well, we were just talking this morning, Susan and I, the fact that so maybe we don't necessarily have to wear a mask, but if we don't, even if you're vaccinated, you can still pass on the COVID, even if you're vaccinated. And a lot of people don't realize that. Yesterday, I was reminding people about why you don't take your children out if they've got the measles, because that's a threat to seniors in particular, for getting shingles. And people forget things like that. At least, measles you can see, but you can't see COVID. But just walking around like, with someone who's obviously ill, like a child with, this is just using measles as an example, but with COVID, you don't know if you might be passing it around. So it is better still to wear the masks, but people are going to do what they're going to do. So, but California is now something like 49% vaccinated. So that's pretty good. And Mendocino County is doing pretty good as well. But,
yeah, the last stat I saw for Mendocino County looked really good. It was up pretty high.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's good in Maine too.
Yeah, place here. Yeah, there's still COVID testing going on. We drove past a place today that used to be a Dodge dealer, and it's now one big COVID testing center, and also you can get vaccinations there. So and then we have a hospital here in town. They're vaccinating on a walk-in basis. So and people are doing that too. So it's good to see.
Nice, walk in. I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
So you've been there how long now? Back there?
We arrived at 6:00 Eastern time on Saturday evening, and 4 days. Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to mention was we're just overwhelmed by all the green here. You kind of forget. We have about 4 different shades of green. As you count the street, and new leaves, older leaves, the pine trees and so forth. But there's about 4 or 5 shades of green as you look into the woods. feel like we're swimming in oxygen. Everything.
Hey, you don't get much fresher air than out here. That is nice, though. You do forget, and you got little tiny trees, not big trees,
Yeah.
so to speak. They're small. It's great. It is beautiful. So you will be there. What, I don't know, will you be there in the fall? I don't know when you're coming back.
We're planning on coming back in early September. We're going to avoid Labor Day. Like the last time we did that 2 years ago, that was not a good idea once you hit Donner Pass.
Ah, oh, so you're gonna miss peak leaf season, I guess, because then it's already getting pretty cold too.
Yeah, and my parents used to spend 6 on, 6 off. They spend six months outside of Phoenix and 6 months here. And they try to leave on Columbus Day weekend, Indigenous Day, sorry, the old Columbus Day, and they'd usually run into snow somewhere before they got to Phoenix.
I bet.
We were lucky the few times we used to go in January out to Gualala. We never had any bad weather. Now that I think about it, we could have.
Wow. Well, I guess that's one thing to thank the drought for. Hey, speaking of traveling too, and travelers, how's Mr. Bill?
Oh, he's still on his hunger strike.
Oh,
He is an older dog now. He turned 12 last month. And before we left, he was doing some strange things like fasting all day and then at night eating 2 bowls of food.
hmm.
And since we got back, he didn't eat very well on the way here. We were stopping at all different places like Arby's and Burger King and all these places. We even got him a double cheeseburger at McDonald's, trying to entice him to eat something. And he would eat a little bit. But right now he's on the couch. Last night he did eat two dinners, but he's on his fast again right now. So he's going to be going to the vet anyway for shots fairly soon. And we may be taking him earlier than that if he doesn't snap out of this deep funk that he's in.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least he is eating once a day, so that's something. But yeah, that's a little worrisome.
Yeah, he can't live on cheese sticks forever. That's his one.
That's right. Who was it? Was it that? Oh my God, this is dating me. Wimpy in those Popeye cartoons. It was just eating burgers all the time.
Yeah, I'll gladly pay you tomorrow for a burger today. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Now,
So
your Power the Tower sign that
yes.
behind you. Why don't you use some of your connections to get some of those guys from the old Oakland group, the Tower of Power, and get them on the air Friday.
Wouldn't that be great? That would be wonderful. God, I can't tell you how many. Well, you and I both growing up here was watching Tower of Power. However, we are going to have some live performances here on Friday. The Fogline Singers are going to be here. The people who do, that famous PSA we play, don't cross that line and hang up the phone and all of those. There's a COVID mask wearing one too. They're going to be here and that'll be fun. And I believe Leanne has scheduled some other entertainment. So, it's going to be quite a busy day. She has people lined up like every 15 minutes, and most of them are going to be here live, coming in and out the door. You guys are going to be here, and your friends, the Rothamels, are going to be here.
Yeah, that's entertainment. You're going to be on YouTube. Is this going to be live?
Yeah.
I mean, visual.
Visual, just like now. You're on YouTube right now.
Okay. Well, good. Then you get Dan and Han live. That'll be great.
That'll be wonderful. And do you know Dave Stoloff?
I know the name. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember if he was also a friend of yours. He donated to us, very generous donations. So some of our KGUA writers are donating, and it's really nice. People are really responding to our request for, making it through the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, we couldn't have done Symposium 2 without you, as you know.
Right.
Because of the pandemic. And, you and Leanne and Susan really put that together, for us electronically and visually. So without the station, we would have had to cancel Symposium 2 and not have the 11 speakers and 12 topics that we had on there live for the whole week.
And it's still on YouTube, KGUA's YouTube channel. You can check that out. Actually, I think you guys really helped launch that channel for those 4 days of the symposium. And I forget how many viewers we have now. We have quite several hundred viewers on our YouTube channel. And I ran into somebody in one of the stores earlier this week who said, "Oh my God, there she comes. They're on YouTube now." So people are like watching us stare at each other and talk to each other. And it, and it's fun. And, when we can, we share photos or movies or whatever, but that's, it's really fun that I think people get to see people here from the coast and talking about our coast. And I especially love this because we are talking coast to coast right now. And with our whale expert, Scott and Tree Mercer. If you just joined us, this is KGUA in Walla, 88.3 FM, streaming globally at kgua.org, on the TuneIn app, radio.garden app, our Air Pocket app, which you can get at kgua.org, and YouTube. So here we are, coast to coast. That was somebody else's show, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I know the streaming works well because we had Zach on from Guatemala, and let's
Oh,
see,
that's right.
we were listening. We listened to your show, this show that we're on right now, last week as we were driving across, and we got a big laugh when you were interviewing Eric last Tuesday, and people kept calling you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You got on the phone and said, "I'm on the air. Goodbye."
I know it's kind of rude, but what do I, and then they don't call back. And so, okay, it's probably a telemarketer or one of those things that says, "Don't hang up," So we have to do what we have to do. Although when we used to do this show several years ago, a tech show, and we would try and take phone calls. We had it was a great tech show, father and son duo, and we one day we got one of those calls on the air, and we just kept the caller and said, "Hey, you got any tech issues? This is a tech show. You got any issues with your phone or your computer?" And the person said, "Yeah, I do." So we hijacked a wrong number there and kept them on the air for a while. But anyway, well, how many whales did you see crossing the nation?
Not a whole lot. It seemed to be a dry season for them. Our friend Zach is out today right now testing that ropeless gear that you heard so much about. He's out with some lobstermen from Kennebunkport, just up the road here a bit, and they're testing the gear. So we're supposed to be having dinner with him tonight when he gets off the boat, or tomorrow night when he gets off the boat, and finding out how that went. They've had very good luck on these tests. I know a lot of the lobstermen and crabbers are skeptical, and some of them reported failures, but every test they've done, and he does them on lobster boats, and they film it too, and it's worked perfectly so far on all the tests. So we'll see how this goes today out of Kennebunkport.
Explain to our listeners and me, how does that work when you say ropeless gear?
Well, this idea came about 5 or 6 years ago. I was sitting in a meeting and I thought, yeah, right. How are you going to do that? And but people with more vision in this in that industry or knowledge than I had, but had an idea that they could get this to work. There's a signal, an acoustic signal that goes from the boat down to the traps. The traps have an inflatable device on them, and when they push the button, the acoustic signal goes down to the traps and releases there's a flotation device that immediately fills up and brings the trap up to the surface. And I haven't been out yet on a boat doing this, but I've seen some of Zach's videos of it, and it pops up, and so far that looks pretty promising. But I don't blame them for being skeptical because there's a lot of money in that gear, and so hopefully that's going to improve enough so that more and more of the people involved in lobstering and crabbing feel confident with it. But I think as a few more people use it and their colleagues see it working, that they will, they'll be more willing to try it too.
Well, can you maybe just explain that to us a little bit more? How is that different from the traditional gear? What is it that, since they call it ropeless, what makes it so much better, in particular for the whales?
Well, the ropeless gear, you have a buoy up on the surface, and at least with lobstering, I'm sure it's the same with crabbing. With lobstering, I'm familiar with. Every lobstering family has a buoy with a particular color pattern, so they know which ones are theirs. And there's the rope runs down to the bottom of the ocean to a trap. Most of the lobster traps here are square. Some of them now are more rounded, so they roll better on the bottom. And they quite often there's a trawl where you have 8, 10, or 15, or sometimes more traps roped together. That's part of what they're working with. The lobstering industry is working on now is restricting the number of traps in a trawl, because it gets heavier and heavier as you go on. And if a whale gets trapped in that, it's going to be very, very difficult for them even to get to the surface to breathe. And it's also difficult for the mechanics on the boat, the mechanisms on the boat, to raise that gear off the bottom if it's heavier and heavier. Because the traps do have bricks or some other heavy item in them, like rocks, to keep them on the bottom and more in one place. The traps are baited usually with herring or mackerel, a very dead and very smelly fish, which attracts the lobsters or crabs. And they crawl into the traps, can't get out, and lobstermen usually come out. I'm saying lobstermen because all the ones that I know are men, although there are quite a few women getting into it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that inflatable device eliminates the rope and the chances of anybody getting entangled in that, which around here in the summertime is sea turtles, various species of lobsters. Whales, and which includes the dolphins and porpoises. Well, mostly dolphins occasionally get wrapped up in them. And let's see what else. Turtles.
So you have a boat on the surface, and it has several lines coming down to the bottom, and then you have.
There's a line coming off the buoy, and the boat comes up. Now, when I've been out lobstering or just watching it, I did go out several times in the past. You go by, you grab one end, there's a handle on the buoy. And as you go by slowly, you grab that handle, wrap the line around a winch, which then does the work for you, pulling the rope up till you come to the first trap. And then the traps come on the deck of the boat. You remove the lobsters, measure them to make sure that they're legal size, also flip them over to make sure they're not females, egg-bearing females. And if all goes well, you put them into a barrel, and the ones that aren't legal for one reason or another go back in the ocean. And then you rebait the trap if it needs it and slide it to the stern of the boat. And there are ropes on the deck of the boat, which people can get their feet wrapped up in. And so as the traps go off the back of the boat, after the whole trawl has come in and they've all been emptied and rebaited, they slide along to the bottom. Each trap is connected to the trap in front of it and behind it by a rope. And then there's the rope that goes back to the buoy, which floats on the surface. And as those are going off the back, if you don't dance out of the way in time, you can get the rope around your ankle and you go over the side with it.
Oh.
So it eliminates that possibility. I did know one fellow out of Hampton Beach several years ago, Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, which is about 15 minutes from here, who was actually dragged behind his boat. He was out lobstering alone without anybody helping him. And fortunately, a boat out of Seabrook, the other side of Hampton Harbor, Seabrook, New Hampshire, noticed the boat going along, didn't see anybody steering it, and then noticed a lot of white water behind the boat. And that was Johnny being dragged along. And he went over and I think one of his crew members jumped into the other boat, stopped it, and they hauled this guy, his name is John, back into the boat. So that's one person I know personally who went over the side of the boat.
He survived?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So, all right. Excuse me for being a little dense here, but I'm just still trying to understand now. Okay, so now we know what traditional lobstering sort of looks like. So now instead of having a whole bunch of different lines and buoys, how does it work? Aha, I
Treatise
knew there'd be a photo somewhere.
visual here.
Thank you.
So that rope
Thank
hang,
you.
see the buoy up on the surface.
Yeah.
That's the traditional way. And you see the whale, they quite often swim by a vertical line. If it hits their flipper,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to roll.
Get it, flatten the screen a little bit, please. There you go. Thank you.
They,
Perfect.
they tend to roll a bit and they get the rope wrapped all around their body. And quite often if they're feeding, like a right whale feeding with its mouth open, will get the rope in its mouth, back into the corners of its mouth. And
Mm,
then they begin rolling. They panic, they begin rolling, and they end up with the rope in their mouth and around their body. So with the, you can see the trap there on the bottom and a weight holding it down. And then over to the other side there, you see a boat with the new technology sending an acoustic signal down to the trap. And that acoustic signal will then activate the flotation device and bring it up to the surface quite quickly. So there's no chance of entanglement because there's no ropes involved in this technology.
got it. Oh, thank you so much, Tree. Thank you for sharing that. Now we really can understand, for our YouTube watchers can see how there is no longer a rope, and that automatic flotation device will bring that trap up to the top, and the whales are safe.
And the skepticism is that, that won't work all the time. They're going to lose the whole trawl on the bottom if, that acoustic signal doesn't work correctly. Now, some guys are claiming that somebody out of Bodega, a crabber, who claimed that, I forget how many times, 2 times out of 10, it didn't work. And that doesn't sound like too much, but in terms of the price of the equipment, that's a reason to be skeptical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in terms of, your catch of the day, that's a reason to be skeptical too.
Catch it twice a year, sure.
Yeah. Well, I although that certainly makes a lot of sense. So I hope they get a higher response rate than 2 out of 10. And then, so when you talk to your friend tomorrow, do you also, or the next day, are you also going to have a lobster dinner? Hey, we got to get to, this is important here. Why else are they doing this? So that people can eat it.
Yeah. Now there was an expression around here, save a whale, eat more kale, but I'm not sure kale rolls are going to catch on right away.
I don't know that that's pretty catchy for out here, but I don't know about
I just
that
bought a
case.
t-shirt for Zach last year to wear to some of the hearings he goes to, but we didn't make the t-shirt. He decided he wasn't going to wear it if he wanted to go home.
Okay, well, there you go. I like it. So, do we, it'll be really interesting now. So we'll hear from you guys in another few weeks or so about how that is going. In the meantime, what is going on as far as you've only been back a few days, but I know you're still in touch with people even when you're back here in terms of the whales on the Atlantic. Are they faring well?
Yeah, there's a lot of humpback whales down on in Cape Cod, well, Massachusetts Bay, I should say, down into Cape Cod Bay. Massachusetts Bay runs from, well, it's pretty much the Gulf of Maine, which runs from Gloucester, Cape Ann, Massachusetts. Anybody who read The Perfect Storm or saw the movie with George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg, Cape Ann, Gloucester is where they went out, the boats went out of, and down to Provincetown and Cape Cod. So that's the southern Gulf of Maine, but in the other direction, it runs from Cape Cod up to the Bay of Fundy off Nova Scotia. So it's a large area and takes in from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and all of Maine up into eastern Canada. And the humpback whales are showing up have been, well, now it's May, so they've been showing up for about a month now in down in Cape Cod Bay and along the Stellwagen Bank area, which is a long sandy glacial moraine that runs from Provincetown all the way up almost to Gloucester, where we used to do most of our whale watching from. And there's 50 or 60 humpback whales that are showing up throughout, from Hyannis, where the Kennedys were famous for living, Hyannis up around the Cape, and then into Massachusetts Bay. A lot of humpback whales are showing up now from the Caribbean where they winter. But more importantly, we just heard yesterday, a day before yesterday, that 150 North Atlantic right whales, which are on the verge of extinction, out of a population of maybe 400, are in Cape Cod Bay right now, feeding on the small invertebrates, the copepods that they feed on, that swarm up in the water column. So they go along with their swimming very slowly with their mouths open and take in the swarms of these little copepods. If anybody was at the climate change, that the Chabon family put on at the community center in Gualala 2 years ago, I spoke at that and had some photos of the copepods, very tiny little creature. And I pointed out before, if you watch SpongeBob SquarePants, the wisecracking little guy with the one red eye in the middle of his forehead, that's a copepod. That's what right whales feed on. So they're in that area, and they're also starting to show up a little bit in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, up around eastern Quebec. And they've been moving out of the Gulf of Maine because of the warming waters in the Gulf, and moving into the Gulf of St. Lawrence where the water is still colder. And because of that, the copepods are flourishing up in that area, but that's all climate change, which is one thing we've been trying to impress upon some of the lobstering families, is that they're saying that they don't need to switch over to ropeless gear because they never see a right whale. The right whales are moving out of the Gulf of Maine. Well, they're moving out of the Gulf of Maine because of the climate crisis, and that's going to affect their industry very soon. Lobsters, they always advertise coming out of the cold waters, lobsters fresh out of the cold waters. And the waters here are warming up very quickly in the Gulf of Maine. It's one of the quickest areas in the world for water's warming up.
Wow, that's pretty serious. I want to jump back a second though. When you said, the whales are swimming along with their mouths open, do they also ingest other things that are not food?
Oh,
Do they-
sure. We used to pick up balloons out there in the water.
Ugh.
This time of the year, that there's more enlightenment going on, but one time you would get masses of balloons released at graduations, especially. And one time we picked up a raft of green balloons about 20 miles offshore, all from University of Vermont. That floated all the way across and it landed out 20 miles out in the ocean, that we picked up around areas where humpback whales were lunge feeding with their mouths open on the surface. And also you get, so many plastics around now, bottles and all of that, they can get ingested too. See things floating out there in the paper and cardboard containers. So
that's not good, is it? I mean, that must have something to do with those UMEs that Tree's always talking about.
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, if you walk along the beach, you see the amount of plastics that are washing up. And the gray whales
Hmm.
out are the ones that are feeding right on the bottom and also digging trenches with their lower jaws, sifting the invertebrates that feed in the bottom up off the surface.
Hey, somebody's calling for you. Somebody from Oregon. We'll just, no, excuse me, as I rudely ask somebody to call back. Uh, And it's a fax. How do you know? Just a fax. So I didn't have to be rude at all. I just hung up on the fax machine. Well, all of these things, I mean, whether, that are affecting so much of life on Earth and uh, in the rising temperatures, we seem to have, at least for a while, 3.5 more years or so, an administration that might be making a difference in some of those areas. And we'll have to see how that goes. But there's, I don't know how you can possibly clean up messes left behind by humans. How come we don't get any smarter about this, instead of just throwing our trash wherever we feel like it, which just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, even animals don't mess up their habitats, they don't leave them messy, they keep them clean. But humans don't seem to be learning that very quickly.
No, unfortunately, you're right. No, we don't. And, there are a number of industries looking at the bottom line between, well, you remember Trump's deregulation. He was claiming that unemployment was so low because of his deregulation, allowing industries to go back to things they used to do for cost cutting. And I was afraid that was going to catch on with the American public, thinking that was just the thing to do. But I think some of it's starting to get into the mentality of Americans and worldwide that this is it's no longer climate change. It's here, it's climate crisis. And, you can see it around you. I talk to people who say, well, I don't see it, immediately where I live. But, if you look at the big picture, there are changes taking place that are quite damaging.
Well, it's pretty obvious here where we haven't had any rain in a while, and you see the forest dying everywhere. And I think that's pretty clear. We had some pretty interesting news yesterday from President Biden and Rachel Maddow. Who knew that she was a truck person, a car person? But I don't know if you saw that about Ford's F-150 is being revealed today, an all-electric truck. And it has a huge amount of power, enough to pull anything. They were pulling 1 million pounds of trains. So it was pretty amazing. So that's a big turnaround. Apparently that's the #1 selling car in the world. Nothing beats that value. I know Susan had an F-150, and there's this old saying though about the old F-150s is that they pass everything but gas stations. So these electric ones.
I did see
might-
on TV this morning in the gym, Joe test driving that truck. And another thing that was good was, that's great, but some of these massive pickup trucks that people are driving for some reason, they have boosted the mileage now up to about 25 or 26 miles a gallon from 12 and 13 miles a gallon. So that's good.
That is good. That is good. Yeah, I had to come to terms with lithium ion batteries for myself because they, I think we've talked about this in person about how much water it takes to extract the lithium, which is part of a salt, I think, and it takes huge amounts of water. But these newer lithium ion batteries are going to be, the lithium is going to come from aluminum that's less extractive. So, how do you weigh and measure what's the balance in climate change? You have to, it's not an easy decision, but which is more extractive, which is going to be better for the planet. But this new F-150 is, everybody already wants one, so
Yeah, we saw on the road, more hybrids going by us. You could see the word hybrid on the back of the vehicles than I've seen in the past. And also some of those Nissan Leafs, Nissan was, I think, first with the electric car idea or putting some out. And the problem there was the longevity, you couldn't go very far in them.
right.
Oh, the other thing we noticed too, Peggy, was long strips of those charging stations.
Mm-hmm.
Even in fast food places, when you get off of Route 80 at an exit, we'd see 5 or 6 of them in just random parking lots as we were going along across country.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are all good things. So
We'd only seen them in California before that. So it was really good to see them throughout the middle of the country, these charging stations.
that is good. Well, so there are some good signs that, people are starting to change their habits, and as we are in crisis, nobody, it's hard to say to people that we're in a crisis, but some people are going to make it better for the future for their kids. So we only have a few minutes left here. I don't know does Tree have anything to report to us?
I have no idea what time it is. I was just going to ask you what time. Yeah, she's sitting right here writing away like crazy.
All right. Hey, and there goes the screen. All right. Except you got do you have a light or a lamp or something? Because we can't quite see your face with the
Maybe
or if you just move over. Yeah.
okay.
Great.
Will do.
Share the screen.
There you
There
go.
she is. Hey, Tree. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Peggy.
I can't, you and Scott just look so relaxed. So, I think always, and Mark, when I talked to Mark Gross when he was back east, and now that he's back, I think, all this planning for the trip and everything is very exhausting. And now that you're there, you just seem a lot more relaxed.
Yeah, it was stressful building up to the long trip, especially when you're traveling with a 12-year-old dog and not knowing how he was going to adjust to it. So yeah, it's a big relief to have made the journey and to be home. Of course, we miss being able to get to the ocean every day and look for the whales and the seals. We miss that terribly, but 4 months is going to go by very quickly.
Yes, it definitely will. And it's good to have a little break here and there. So what have you got for us, Ms. Tree?
I have an update on our data, the number of northbound gray whales that we have seen this year. In February, we had 9. In March, we had 456. In April, we had 139. And in May, we had 5. So our total northbound gray whale count for this season is 609.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's a little bit lower than previous years. This was our 8th season of doing this census, and it is a little bit low, but we also have to take into account that we left earlier this year, and we usually stay here at least through June, but being that we did not get back last year, we thought we had to come back as early as possible. And that number includes 6 mother-calf pairs. Now they should still be coming. We had received word from researchers in Southern California and through Monterey Bay that there are gray whale mothers and calves still on their way north. So if there's some good weather, I encourage everybody back there to, if you have some time, nice calm ocean conditions, to get out there and look for gray whale moms and calves. They should be passing by. To give you a little perspective, in 2019, we saw 22 mother-calf pairs in our area. And in 2020, we saw 31 mother-calf pairs. So being that we only saw 6, but most of them do come through in May and even into June. You should still be able to see them, and that's always a thrill. Shari Goforth Ebby photographed a gray whale calf at Gualala Beach, and they're just the cutest things you want to see. And she's still out there doing her photo ID project. She has recently made contact with John Kalamakidis from Cascadia Research, and he's thrilled that she's doing this, and he wants to include her in their catalog of gray whales. So that's a very exciting news. She does outstanding work, very skilled photographer, and very knowledgeable about the gray whales that she's been seeing and photographing. So that's a real bonus for our area.
It is, and plus she has a great sense of humor, and when she names those whales, she
love it.
has some very, very humorous names for them. Yeah, we're so lucky to have her here and all the other citizen scientists that are around. So with all of your information, it makes for such a bigger picture. Well, as I said, right now it's still dang windy, and the whitecaps are there. They're not the huge waves, but they're whitecaps, so it makes it very hard.
Very hard. The blows get knocked down so quickly. It makes it really hard to find those whales, and even harder to track them. It's almost luck that you see the blow, and you got to count on that one sighting to know that the whale is there. I know these conditions are tough, and Shari's been out there. She's been sending us updates, which we really appreciate.
And to this morning, as I was driving into work, that Ollie Strait, as it's known, that area, you just south of Gualala, the Strait area there, and there were 3 or 4 trucks really parked there, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if they're seeing something as you're driving, and you're like, you can't really look, and because of the whitecaps, I think people were just meeting each other there. They weren't really looking out at the ocean, but it's the first thing you think is, are there whales out there? I want to stop and see, but I have to see them another time. Absolutely. But that's great. That is good news for tourists who will be coming around again. Hopefully that will be reviving somewhat here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really good spot. We'll observe from there often. It's so close to our home, and it is a good place. I saw my first mother calf right there at that spot a few years back, and I was thrilling because they come so close to the shore, and we were looking right down on it, and it's an excellent spot to sight whales.
Oh, nice. Very nice. All right. So you've got about 5 minutes.
Okay, quick update on the unusual mortality event that is still in place for gray whales. We have Alaska having no dead gray whales as of May 6th. NOAA posts this once a month. Washington State has had 6. Oregon has had 1, and California has had 10. So for the United States, we've had 17 strandings of dead gray whales. Canada has reported 2, US 17, Mexico quite a few, 47. So this year we've had 66 gray whales have died and stranded. And just a reminder that maybe only 1 out of 10 that die come on shore. So this number may only represent a small fraction, a small percentage of the gray whales that are dying. The total since 2019, when the UME was first declared by NOAA, we have lost 454 gray whales. And that number could be as high as 4,540.
Oh my gosh. Well, as I was mentioning when Scott and I were talking earlier about garbage, and that these whales could be ingesting when they do necropsy. Thank you.
Yeah.
When they do that, when they look at their bodies, is that one of the things they look for? Is things
Absolutely.
that they might have swallowed that have obviously, taken their lives?
Absolutely. They always look at the stomach contents and if there's any objects along the entire digestive system. But yeah, what's in the stomach could reveal a lot about the cause of death if it was otherwise undetermined, and just the overall health of that animal. Is it ingesting a lot of plastics or other debris that, could have contributed to the death of that animal? It's absolutely considered as well. We had more strandings in the San Francisco Bay Area. Last month, I had read to you about the first 4. Well, unfortunately, there were 3 more, and they were on April 27th. There was a dead gray at Keel Cove in Tiburon. They were unable to do a necropsy, but they were able to get some samples. And what's especially interesting about this whale is that it was seen and observed alive for 47 days in the San Francisco Bay. And it was definitely underweight. Malnutrition is an enormous problem for these grays. So that was pretty sad that it had been seen there for 47 days prior to it showing up dead. May 3rd was another gray whale dead at the port of Oakland. The cause of death was undetermined. May 4th, another one showed up in Angel Island State Park. So in 2019, from March through May, scientists investigated 13 dead gray whales in the Bay Area. In 2020, the Marine Mammal Center responded to 5 dead gray whales. And in 2021, 7 dead gray whales in the San Francisco Bay Area. So that's a reason for concern. There was also a dead juvenile 46-foot male finback whale. That's the second largest whale, endangered species. And it showed up dead in Fort Funston. And now it's at Thornton Beach in Daly City. It has been confirmed that juvenile finback died of a ship strike. They did a necropsy, and there was significant bruising and hemorrhaging to the muscle around the whale's neck vertebrae that's consistent with blunt force trauma due to ship strike. Its stomach was filled with krill, which is one of its
oh my gosh.
Yeah. They declared it to be an average body condition based on the blubber layer.
Well, Lee, Tree, we're gonna have to stop. We're already out of time. I'll have to get you on the air sooner next time. But that leaves us a lot to consider about the ship strikes and of course the lack of food. So we'll learn more. We'll have you guys on again soon. But it's great to see you guys, Scott, wherever you are. Thank you. Wonderful to see you guys again. And I'm glad you made a safe journey. But we gotta go. And
Thank you.
We'll be in touch, of course. Take care. And love you guys and Mr. Bill.
Okay.
Okay, that's going to do it for Peggy's Place today, and with Scott and Tree Mercer.